Hello, and a very warm welcome to Between Lines. I'm Reed, your guide to the world of the written word and storytelling. I hope I can share some tips and inspiration to help make your story even more captivating and engaging. Let's get started. The Name of the Wind is an almost 900-page long fantasy novel by Patrick Rothfuss, published in 2007. It is the first part of the still incomplete The Kingkiller Chronicle. The book has two narrative levels. In the first, the protagonist Kvothe, under the somewhat unoriginal alias Kote, recounts to a chronicler the beginnings of his heroic journey. The second level is that very tale of his younger self, aged 12 to 15. Initially, his life with his parents and his first mentor, Abinthy, is introduced. His parents and the entire traveling performance troupe are eventually murdered by the mysterious Chandrian. Kvothe then spends several months alone in the forest, followed by years as a street urchin in the city of Tarbean before enrolling in the magical university. There, he is constantly on the brink of financial ruin, which is repeatedly averted at the last moment. Alongside rivalries with the snobbish fellow student Ambrose, the tentative approach to the mysterious Denna, to whom Kvothe feels drawn, takes center stage. The climax of the story occurs when Kvothe hears of the Chandrian's deeds in a neighboring village, but instead of encountering them, he must defeat a drug-addicted dragon. The book ends with the prospect of continuing the story of the young Kvothe the next day. The book revolves exclusively around the character Kvothe, in a dual capacity. The older Kvothe, posing as a humble innkeeper, narrates his early heroic days in his own words. However, Kvothe is a textbook Mary Sue. Even as a child, he is superior to everyone else. He learns incredibly quickly, and even his few failures are twisted to ultimately benefit him. Kvothe is arrogant, conceited, and self-centered. His only flaw is his supposed ineptitude in matters of love. Thus, he dances around his mysterious Denna for nearly 900 pages without getting any closer to her. But like everything else about this protagonist, this flaw is inconsistent and lacks drama or finesse. All other characters lack independent lives, existing solely to cast Kvothe in a better light. As a reader, one always hopes this is a biased perspective because the story is told from the older Kvothe's point of view, and one might grant him some embellishment of his youth. However, the countless missed opportunities to make the story exciting, or at least interesting, suggest not an intentional bias by the narrating Kvothe, but rather poor writing and a lack of self-awareness from the author, Rothfuss. Kvothe's deeds are intended to portray him as an exceptional and brilliant young arcanist, yet they come across as exaggerated and strain the reader's patience, especially as the other characters in the story take them seriously, admire Kvothe, and support him, rather than kicking this insufferable brat out the door. The greatest issue with the story is the character Kvothe. Unfortunately, the book is solely about him. Kvothe is supposed to be an extraordinary prodigy, but his over-the-top behavior doesn't make him a charming rebel. Instead, it makes him simply unlikable and, at some point, so tiresome that one wishes for him to finally fail and stop being constantly rewarded for his impudence. Many of his actions are so excessive that, while they might make for cool scenes in a tabletop RPG, they lead to nothing but the reader shaking their head in disbelief in a novel that takes itself far too seriously. The setting of the Kingkiller Chronicle is often praised. I, however, cannot agree, as it is as colorless as all the characters and exists only to showcase Kvothe in the best light. Even locations where significant portions of the story take place are inadequately described. Unfortunately, the lack of detail is so severe that it doesn't allow the reader's imagination to fill the gaps. Instead, one is left stranded in this mire of Kvothe's reflections. Presumably, this is because Rothfuss himself had no concrete picture in mind, as his focus was solely on the character of Kvothe. The world, therefore, lacks definition. It is too plain to be true fantasy. Yet there is magic, mixed repeatedly with anime logic and modern units of measure and concepts, such as police, modern hygiene, and contemporary laboratory equipment. The nebulous Chandrian consort with demons, and beneath the university lie contraptions resembling something from a steampunk world. Either Rothfuss wanted to keep all options open, or he simply lacked a clear vision for his characters, story, and world. The genre classification is equally ambiguous. The accounts of a young hero growing up, dealing with educational challenges, and experiencing first love suggest a coming-of-age story. But this potential is missed due to Kvothe's rigid Mary Sue character. Another major issue is the lack of payoff. The beginning opens countless doors, hinting at groups, concepts, and backgrounds, but absolutely none of this is revealed by the book's end. There are only more unanswered questions. Kvothe and his student Bast are presented as highly mysterious figures, but the author never clarifies what Kvothe's deeds were that one must have heard of him. One almost wishes Kvothe were a fraud, a Captain Jack Sparrow-like figure boasting of others' exploits to get by. At least that would provide some dramatic twist. But no, Mr. Rothfuss sticks to his Mary Sue, who offers the reader no room for development. As Kvothe does not evolve, being already perfect, none of his actions carry significance for the thin plot. Thus, the story shrinks to a series of random encounters without resonance for the world or its characters. Since a chronological series of random events does not constitute a plot, I genuinely wonder how this book achieved such success and attracted Hollywood's attention for adaptation. The murder of Kvothe's parents by the Chandrian serves as the catalyst for the entire narrative. Although Kvothe's efforts are directed towards learning more about them to exact revenge, the author fails to deliver anything about them. A showdown with the Chandrian, or even one of their minions, should have been the finale. Instead, we get a random drug-addicted dragon as a replacement antagonist. Similarly, a central aspect is Kvothe's perpetual risk of expulsion from the university due to his poverty. This core narrative element never escalates. He constantly receives undeserved charity at just the right moment. The romantic relationship with Denna also seems intended to be a significant element, but from their initial naturally coincidental meeting to the book's end, there is no development. No progress, no transformation, just a monotonous repetition of the same pattern. Kvothe searches for Denna but cannot find her. Then, she appears out of nowhere, only to disappear again. Why is Kvothe's intellectual brilliance not utilized to make his character more likable? Why doesn't he love knowledge for its own sake and strive to use it to make the world a better place? Why doesn't he share his talents with his friends? This could explain why the university's masters, despite his young age, want to keep him around, or perhaps feel threatened by him. But no. Kvothe uses his intellect merely to alienate others and rub them the wrong way. Why is the theme of financial hardship omnipresent, but never used to heighten the drama? Devi, the moneylender, could pressure Kvothe when he fails to pay his installments, blackmailing him into stealing from the university, placing him in a moral quandary and further danger. Why is Kvothe not forced to borrow money from his friends, thereby jeopardizing their relationships, rather than money conveniently appearing, usually without much effort on Kvothe's part? Why doesn't Kvothe's financial struggles play a role in his relationship with Denna, who makes her living charming, wealthy men? Why isn't it shown that she avoids Kvothe because he is penniless and has nothing to offer her, until she realizes he can give her something the rich men cannot: love? And then there are the Chandrian. Why is the reader denied a showdown with the murderers of Kvothe's family? At least a confrontation with part of the Chandrian or one of their henchmen would allow Kvothe to accomplish something tangible, even if the actual revenge on the Chandrian were reserved for a later book. Instead, we are given the utterly unsatisfying substitute antagonist in the form of a drug-addicted dragon. This book, therefore, has little to offer. A ubiquitous, unlikable protagonist with absolutely no potential for growth. The reader watches as he learns things and receives promotions without effort. The fantasy world is bland and unoriginal. Every hook presented to the reader remains dangling, with no hope of ever being resolved. Even a traditional story structure is absent, as the protagonist never encounters the antagonist again after they kill his family. Most of the ideas in this book are left half-baked. It is thus an immense collection of unresolved hints with no real cohesion and no prospect of being explored further, as the third part of the chronicle has been awaited since 2011. This book is best summarized with a quote from the protagonist himself: "I talked too much and said far too little."